This is Your Other Brothers Podcast.
Living in the borderland. I don't feel like a boy, I don't feel like a man. Help me, holy Jesus, won't you show me how to live? I got monsters at my table, I got Bibles bent like shields. Help me, holy Lord, I see the light of heaven's porch, but so many of us are born here outside your chain link fence. Yeah, living in the borderland.
Welcome home, friends, to Your Other Brothers Podcast. We are a community navigating faith, sexuality, and masculinity together once again. It feels so good to say all those words and to be back with you all. My name's Tom, and I am here in Asheville, North Carolina. It is the jewel of the Blue Ridge. And joining me, I have two other brothers that I can't wait to introduce. One, he's been on 50 some of these YOBcasts through the years. He's on the other side of the state from the city of Oaks. That's Raleigh, North Carolina. It's my other brother, Ryan.
Hello, Tom. Hello, everyone.
I just have a big smile on my face. People can't even see.
Me too.
And also joining us from this great state, this great Tar Heel state of North Carolina, from the city of Queens, the Queen City of Charlotte, North Carolina. It's our other brother, Matt. So what's up, Matt?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Tom. Hi, Ryan. So happy to be here from the city of Queens.
That's what you got. You got the city of Queens.
Yes.
Yes, Queen. You guys, this is Matt's very first YOBcast. Everyone out there, give Matt a hand. Snap your fingers, clap your hands, raise a hallelujah. We got Matt in the house joining me and Ryan, the OGs, I suppose, on this show. Matt, thanks for jumping on. You've been on a few convo casts. That was your audition, your trial run, and now this is the big time. This is the lights are on, the recordings are on. Are you ready? Are you ready to roll?
Yeah, I am. I am so very honored and thrilled to be a part of this and contribute in any way. Like I was telling you guys, it just was like 6-7 years ago that I was listening to you guys and thinking, wow, I've never heard Christian men talk about any of this stuff. And it was life-changing.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been guided to this point.
Yeah. Guided here. I love that. I love that there's somebody out there, Matt. Like I believe this wholeheartedly. There's somebody listening right now who doesn't even know it. They're going to be on this show in like 2 years, 3.5 years. I don't know. Less than a year, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the timeline is for that person. But if you're out there listening, just know Holy Spirit's moving, stirring always, never taking a break. And even though we take a break, but the Holy Spirit's always working. And so I'm glad to be back with all of you. It's kind of crazy, as I was thinking about this episode and putting this episode together, I don't know if you guys are into Parks and Rec. I know we got a big Parks and Rec contingent in our community out there, but I forget if it was the season 2 or season 3 premiere. It was like one of the early season premieres where like the first episode is like the government coming back from a shutdown. And it's like Leslie Knope, who is Amy Poehler, and she's just driving around to all of her Parks and Rec workmates and picking them up because the government's back on, and she's like picking them up again. And so she just goes around the city picking up all of her friends who are her coworkers. And that's kind of what this feels like. It's like we've been off the air for for over 2 years now. And I had to like reach out. I had reached out to Ryan. I reached out to Matt. I was like, are you good? Are you game to come back? And they're both game. They're both good. And here we are. And we might have some other brothers. I mean, I'm sure we will at some point in the near future have other brothers join us too. But for right now, this episode, this first one back after 2+ years, it feels kind of nice. Even though we are all white, North Carolinian, millennial, middle-aged, either reaching or eclipsing middle age, like we'll have some good times together, I'm sure.
Gosh, when you put it that way, who would listen to us? Oh my gosh,
you're so irrelevant. I work with teenagers all the time, and there are 2 generations below me. I work with Gen Alpha now, and so I have no idea what they're talking about.
You just have no idea.
I don't know what they're saying ever.
well, well, so I say all that to say is like, this will be a core group that you'll see on these or you'll see / hear on these episodes. But we have a B team ready to step up and ready to contribute as well. And so I'm hopeful that we'll get some fourth voices in the mix on certain episodes, if not replacing one of these, if these guys are either busy or they just don't want to be on a certain episode, like we'll have some other guys chipping into. But that's kind of the lay of the land, is we're hoping to come back with monthly episodes throughout the rest of this year. And I'll share more about that in the announcements. So y'all, our last YOBcast was released on May 5th, 2023. And we've done a bunch of convo casts since then. I had no idea, by the way, when I released that episode, that would be the last one for 2+ years. I had no idea. I knew at the time I was going to be taking at least a few months to recollect and do a summer series and maybe come back strong in the fall. But the way Yob and the way my life has gone the last couple of years, it just was not possible to continue the pace with these episodes. So I'll share more about that in the announcements. But I thought it would be fun as a time capsule, y'all, to look back at the way of the world in May of 2023. Would you guys like to hear how the world was working in 2023? You know, one of the big things that has changed in the last 2 years has been the advent of ChatGPT and AI. So I basically asked AI today, tell me about the world on May 5th, 2023. And it knew exactly what I wanted. It was like, thank God I have this new resource that's going to just change our podcast forever, hopefully in mostly good ways. But you guys, on May 5th, that exact day, the World Health Organization declared that the COVID-19 emergency was no longer an emergency. Can you believe that?
On that
Wow.
that day?
That day.
On that specific day, declared that it was no longer an emergency.
Is it because we stopped podcasting?
I guess.
Weird.
That was the impetus, yeah. Also a 6.2 magnitude earthquake hit Japan. That was another thing that happened on the day. And also something else was that the public were greeted by the royal family ahead of King Charles's coronation on May the 6th. So it was Coronation Eve for the king.
Wow, God save the king.
God save that king. Yeah. So there we go. That's an international perspective. I threw in some other countries there. But that's just what was happening in the world a couple of years ago. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. It sounds like a lifetime ago. All those things were happening. And you guys, it's so funny. I took a longer list, and maybe in the months to come, I'll dive into this well. As the last 2 years unfolded, I had a note document on my phone where I jotted down some things that if we were still recording these episodes, like this would be amazing front matter. This would be amazing, like to riff with Ryan and whoever else for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And so like I started jotting these things down over the last couple of years. So I just plucked out 3. There were just 3 that I wanted to focus on. 2 of them are more recently. But I was just like, and whenever these news items hit my desk, my metaphorical desk, I was like, oh my gosh, that is such a Yob topic that is so ripe for Yob. And the first one was our Speaker of the House here in America, Mike Johnson, and his son were accountability partners with Covenant Eyes. This was a story that broke.
Really?
Wow. Did you not hear that story?
I didn't hear about this. No,
Yeah.
I can't imagine why.
How did you miss it? Yeah, we're not going to get political, but I just was like, that's interesting. I don't know if I'd want to be accountability partners, because it was two-way. It wasn't like the dad was just getting his son's Covenant Eyes report. It was vice versa. The son was also getting the father's Covenant Eyes report. And it was this thing that was like really celebrated in Christianity and masculinity, Christian masculinity. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Having your dad as your accountability partner is like acute, perhaps even terminal, like straight energy.
Yeah.
The face Matt's making right now.
Matt's face is crinkling. This is a great call for anyone to watch. We're going to pull some YouTube clips for our YouTube channel, so maybe that'll make the cut for our YouTube poll. We'll see. Matt, you're making fantastic faces just then. Do you have any hot takes, Matt, on that?
No. First off, what news organization? Where did you get this?
This is big news. It was in all the late night shows. They were having a field day with it. I was like, and I felt bad because I was like, at the heart of it, accountability. I don't want to make fun of accountability. I think accountability is a great thing. I think Covenant Eyes and other internet blockers, I think they're doing great work to like help in the name of like helping men preserve their purity and walk with the Lord. Like I admire all that. But I was just trying to figure that out. Like maybe this is a deeper dive for another time, but I was trying to figure it out. Am I jealous of this relationship? Like, am I jealous, or do I feel shame about it? Or do I feel just weird or cringy about it, about someone's dad getting the accountability report and vice versa? I was like, I don't know what to do with that. This is something that I would talk about with the boys on the show if we were on the air, but we weren't on the air. So, so I'm just gonna let that linger. If anyone out there to all these news stories, if you have things to say, leave us a comment as always.
I wonder where all the other politicians' accountability reports go.
That's a good question. At least we know where the speakers goes.
We know where one goes.
We know where one goes. Another news story that I was like, this is so up Yob's alley, was learning that Christianity, a lot of this has to do with just the Christian response to everything. Christianity had a hot take, had a strong response to worship leader and singer Corey Asbury painting his nails. There was this big controversy where Corey Asbury painted his nails because he has a daughter or multiple daughters, at least one daughter. And that was like the impetus, because he let his daughter paint his nails or something. And Christians were not having it, y'all.
I draw the line at a French tip, honestly, worship singer.
Anything more than that, yeah. Just get off the stage. Get off. I am convinced that people in our culture are less concerned about your sexual orientation than they are about your gender presentation. And that's a whole other conversation. But like, oh, you're attracted to men? Okay, bless your heart.
You're dressing how?
But the nails are going to have to.
No, I mean, honestly, in the last 2 years, I would say that's been an interesting shift. Maybe it was happening before that too. But I think more of this focus on gender issues, trans issues versus sexuality. Maybe that ship has sailed and there's a new ship in harbor. I don't know. I think that's something that potentially has been transpiring for a few years now. And then the last thing I had on my little list, this one was very sweet, and it happened as of like maybe a couple months ago, I think. But there is this trend on TikTok. I don't know if you guys are on the talk. I'm on the talk too much. I need to limit my talk time. But there is this very, very sweet trend where men, it was like everyone was doing it. Everyone that I followed, I saw everyone posting this, where men were encouraged to call their male friends before bed and wish them a good night. And that was the only impetus for the call, was like 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, to just call your male friend and have yourself being recorded doing it and wish them a good night. Tell them you love them. It was the sweetest thing. I was a big fan.
That's so sweet. But I have to say, how viral could it be? Because I never received a call.
Oh,
all these viral trends go around of men being all sweet to each other and everything, and I'm starting to think that it's all fake because it never comes to my doorstep.
It's AI, right? It's not real. No, Ryan, I should be in bed in about 2.5 hours, and so just don't turn your phone off.
Whenever you hang up, I'm going to call you and.
Can we all
return the favor?
Can we all call each other? Can we all call each other before we go to bed and just say good night? It doesn't have. That's literally all it was. It was like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and it would just be like calling your friend. And I think it produced a lot of conversations in like the talk shows. Like I watched some talk show clips about like, yeah, why is this so endearing? But why is it like it's like this examination on masculinity? Like it stands out because this is not something quote unquote men do. They don't call each other to wish each other a good night. And so it was interesting to see, all these mostly straight men. Maybe it was just like straight men only. Maybe that was the caveat. But I saw like all these straight men calling each other, wishing each other good night. And it was very sweet. But you're right. I never got that call either.
I have not seen that. If you see one, can you please send it to me? Because I think that does sound adorable. And I'm hopeful, real quick, for young generations below us, that sort of thing, that there's more of that. Do you know what I mean? I hope that this kind of resistance, this unwillingness to express that kind of affection, are you guys seeing it kind of shift?
Yeah. I think it's softening.
I think so too. Yeah. It's a new generation. We need to be done with the old ways and with the new ways. And I think the future's bright.
Yeah.
So those are just some of the news stories that we didn't get to talk about over the last 2 years. I'm sure more will come up in the next few months. And the news just keeps happening, y'all. So I'm sure there'll be other trends and other things that hit the culture that we'll be eager to talk about on these airwaves. So I'm excited for all that. I wanted to go to you guys. A lot of the listeners already know me and already know Ryan really well, but they don't know Matt as well. If they've listened to his, you've been on the ComboCast, I think 3 or 4 times, maybe a couple of times. This is the big boy show, as I call it. So this is your first YOBcast. So we're going to get to know you as well. So we don't have a lot of time, but I wanted you guys to answer anything that comes to mind. Over these last 2 years that we've been off the air, I'm going back to May, but you could draw the line wherever you'd like. But I'm curious, over the last 2 years, is there anything that stands out as something very central and pivotal to your existence, to your life, to your story? Any events, any experiences? I'm curious if anything comes up.
Well, in the past 2 years, I was trying to think of what was I up to in May of 2023, and I went on a Mediterranean cruise with 2 of my YOB friends and with my parents. So it was a fun,
cute. It
was a very, very fun, cute mix. It was a blast. And then last year I went on a cruise to Norway with another side B friend and with my parents, and that was also very fun. And I think I'm finding that traveling with the right side B friends and traveling with my parents, there's some drawbacks, but it's wonderful in a lot of ways. I think what I found with my parents and my side B friends is that they love them a lot, and it makes my parents, especially my mom, feel like, oh, Ryan's not lonely. Ryan's not going to die alone. These are the wonderful people in his life that he's committed to, and they're committed to him. And I'm not so worried that he's not getting married anymore. So that's one of the values I've found in those kinds of situations.
I love that, because I've known that you've taken those trips. You're Mr. Cruise all of a sudden. So I knew you took those trips with your parents included. And so I've been curious to wonder, what was going on there for that inclusion of these 2 worlds, these 2 spheres of your life colliding on the open seas. But that's a really beautiful sentiment. So thanks for sharing that.
I just can't help but comment on Ryan's. I think that's so beautiful. And I've met his beautiful parents and how eager they are to love people who love Ryan. And they even offered to meet my mom, I think before I even came out to her, which was so kind and sweet. And maybe someday she'll be ready for that. But to piggyback on that, I think my mom is learning. My dad is gone now. And I think that my mom is learning more than she ever has, the value of friendship. She's had some friends come in and just step in and do life with her in a way that she hasn't needed after having had a partner for 46 years. And so I think that that's helping her understand me and my life more. Does that make sense? And in the same way, Ryan. So I think that's so beautiful. And anyway, but all I was going to say is, I think when I think of 2023, I had just been hired for the first job in my adult life that I've ever really liked. So it took me 20 years of working to finally find a job that I feel like it's not like it fulfills me or defines me, but I just don't mind going to work. And I'm so grateful. I work as a school counselor. And all I want to say about it is this is also the first time in my life I've ever just strolled in the door and been completely open about my sexuality and also my faith and my, superior masculinity and all of it, just together. So it's still a learning. I'm still learning how to do it, how to navigate all that with people who are very different. Some people who are, believers, non-believers, some people who, are just crazy about me because of my sexuality, others who kind of side eye me, you know what I mean? And so it's been quite the learning experience, but it's so grateful for it and for this job. So 2 years into it since the podcast stopped.
Wow. that fits in so well with the timing of the question. And I was thinking about it myself because it was hard for me to answer this question, separating my life from your other brothers. I was like, where does my life begin and end? And where does your other brothers, where's its own thing? Because inevitably those two have overlapped in my life for 10 years now, especially the last 2 years. When I was thinking about my own life though, honestly, there was something that was really pivotal that happened last fall, and I recorded a podcast update about it. But we got hit with a hurricane here in Asheville, North Carolina, of all places to get hit by a hurricane. And it was brutal. It was brutal for everyone that was here because so many areas got flooded. There were reports out there that said we lost like 30 to 40% of our trees, which I don't know if that number is true or not, but there were so many trees down. And when trees go down, power lines go down. And so it was a hot mess for 2 months. We didn't have drinking water. And I didn't have power at my apartment for like a month, I think, or at least 2 or 3 weeks. I think it was like 3 weeks maybe. So it was, and I say all that to say like the natural disaster part was one part of it, but the other part of it was like this need to be here because I had so many places I could have fled in refuge. I mean, my parents are always wanting me to come home for as long as I want to stay. So I always have that as an option. If I wanted to go to Georgia where my parents live or my siblings in Tennessee, or I'm sure I could have probably, if I asked either of you guys, like crash with you guys for a couple of days at a time or something. But there was something in me that was like, no, I want to be here. This is my home. This is where I want to be. My church became this like distribution center for all kinds of food items and toiletries and kitchen supplies and all kinds of things. And so there was just like a connection with this city that I hadn't felt ever, honestly, with anywhere that I've ever lived. And this responsibility to be here and recognize how fortunate I was and also help in the grand effort. And we received so many things from abroad. And so that was just such a moving moment for me last fall, to be connected to this city that I've really come to grow. I've had a love-hate relationship at times with the city, with people coming and going and not knowing where I belong in general in this life. But I think that was a really, really special moment for me last fall to feel like, yeah, this is where I belong. And it may not be forever. It may not be for the next 20, 30 years, but for right now, for this definitive season, this is where I belong. And I just feel it's worth mentioning on the show because I've mentioned the Jewel of the Blue Ridge in Asheville, North Carolina for 9 years of podcasts now. And so I just wanted to reaffirm that's not going anywhere anytime soon. Again, I can't determine if it's the rest of my life, but for right now, it's a pretty special place. And Asheville's come a long way in almost a year's time now since that hurricane. We still got a long way to go in many areas of town, but yeah, we've come a long way. And I wanted to share now kind of some announcements before we get into our topic today. We're talking about women. If you haven't already noticed from the title, we're talking about women today. And so we're going to share our experiences, our relationships with women, both our peers, our moms. Maybe we'll enter into the chat. Not on this Zoom call, but we'll talk about our moms, I'm sure. But I want to give a quick lay of the land for those that aren't aware, because I know there's so many people who religiously follow every single thing we post, whether it's blogs, podcasts, social media, inside the Yob community on Discord, Zoom calls. There's some Yobber lifers out there who are committed to every single thing we put out. There are others that are listening right now, undoubtedly, who have no idea, like, wait, where have y'all been for 2 years? And why are you back now? And what's going on? And why does the new image look different? And what's that new background music? And what's going on? Tell me what's going on. So I'm going to give you a quick 2-minute lay of the land. A couple of years ago, it works out really well with the timing of this whole thing, but 2 years ago, we made the decision as a leadership team to pursue a direction as becoming a nonprofit ministry. And this is something I've been hearing for years. Previously, I was hearing people telling me, y'all should become a nonprofit, or why aren't you a nonprofit? And my response was, I don't know how to do that. And if we don't have to, why should we? So that was my working answer for a few years with the nonprofit discussion. And it's just such a cool thing when we met Erin, or when I met Erin, Matt met Erin, Ryan met Erin. I mean, she was in North Carolina at the time. And so she met a bunch of our community members here in North Carolina back in 2022. And then especially going into 2023, just developing connections with her and with a bunch of women that she was connecting with, it really did become obvious. Like, yeah, we do need to pivot and become a legitimate nonprofit ministry and file all the things we have to file with the government and just kind of change the way we've been doing things in a logistical sense, but really keep the heart of what we're doing, which is, it's so funny because when I started this thing, I've said this a million times, I didn't seek to create a community. I was like, I like blog. I want to write blog. And so I wrote blogs, and that was fun for me for the first year of just writing blogs editing my friends' blogs. And that's all we were for almost a year, was just a blog. And then when we added the podcast and added supporters on Patreon, and then we started scheduling calls and forming a virtual community space, like it all of a sudden took on a life of its own. And I think after our first retreat, it became pretty obvious that, yeah, we're more than a blog and a podcast. That might be how people find us. It might be what people think about when they think about Your Other Brothers. But at the core, I think we are a ministry, and we are connecting people and hopefully spurring one another to follow Jesus with a new vigor, with a new faith that we maybe didn't have before. And so yeah, we've been one of the reasons, I mean, essentially the main reason why I decided that I couldn't do this YOBcast anymore after May of 2023 was that becoming a nonprofit took a lot of time, took a lot of work. I was like, I don't know how to do this, and I need to be able to focus on how to do this well. Because the ideal would have been if we could have kept everything the same with our content production and also do all the work to create a nonprofit ministry. I would have loved to have done that. And I just realized pretty early into that fall of 2023 that was just not possible to do it. So it was just like a solid year of like figuring out, what is our mission statement? What is our vision statement? What's the difference between a mission statement and a vision statement? And like writing out our values and our vision, and what do we want to accomplish? What are some goals we want for the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? And writing all those things down and having this idea of what this is. And then going back to last summer of 24, I spent a solid, I think, 2 to 3 months with index cards spread across my living room floor with people's names on them, people inside of Your Other Brothers, people at my church, other people, friends that I know, and trying to figure out who could serve on our founding board, becoming a nonprofit ministry and forming a board of directors. I was like, who in the world do I ask to do that? What kinds of people do I ask? And so that was its own process that took 2 to 3 months of just like figuring out a list to choose from, and then having intentional conversations with people. And so those are just some couple of examples of the time that I was taking to put all this together. And so it's just a lot of work. It was a lot of admin, a lot of logistics, a lot of things that weren't as fun in the moment. But looking back now, I can appreciate as that it was all part of this, like, I think about like all these ingredients that go into a cake, and there's like some things you throw in there, like you don't eat like baking soda by itself, or you don't eat salt by itself. But it's like when you start putting it all together with all the other good stuff, then it like makes sense. Like, oh yeah, you need that to hold this thing together, or whatever scientific purpose it does. So I can look back now with a lot of appreciation, but also a lot of sadness and frustration. Is like, yeah, in a perfect world, I would have loved to kept doing these hour to hour and a half long episodes every other week. I think we were doing them every other week back then. And it just wasn't something I could commit to. And so, I say all that to say now we have brand new websites. We have a pending status now. We're waiting on the good old government's approval as we've submitted all the things we can submit now for nonprofit status. And so that's really exciting to be in this new era. And if you haven't checked them out, I encourage you, check out yourotherbrothers.org. You can still go to yourotherbrothers.com. We've simplified all of our websites to .org. So yourotherbrothers.org, yourothersisters.org. That is now a thing. And then our pending nonprofit ministry that we both fall under, Yob and Yas, is Your Other Family. So yourotherfamily.org. You can check out all of those sites. I shot some videos with Aaron, and that was really fun to record these videos with Aaron and put those on the front pages of each of our 3 websites. So check those out if you haven't seen them. And I already know what's going to happen, so I'll just announce it. Like, if you're clicking around and something doesn't work, just go ahead and email me. Send me the error report. I know there's probably tons of links that don't work, or things that are just amiss if you look at them on your phone versus if you look at them on your laptop. Shout out to the Yobbers and any Yossers out there too who helped in this. But we corrected a lot of issues in the first week or two after our 3 websites went live. So I appreciate the team effort in that regard, because it was a massive effort to transfer one giant website with like 500 blogs and 200 podcasts into a brand new website, and making sure all the errors get corrected, or as many of them as we can possibly correct right away. And then creating 2 new websites out of nothing. And so that's been a fun process to birth this new way, this new thing that we're doing, that we're still also doing the same, but we're also doing differently. Something that we're doing differently, something that's slightly different for the ones that are attuned, who follow the details, who know the details. When I announced the tagline of our community, it's slightly different. It's actually our 3rd different tagline in Your Other Brothers going back to 2015. So we are now navigating faith, sexuality, and masculinity together. We are homo, no mo. Is how I've said that. The reason being, what's been really fascinating over these last few years, when I think about, 2 years time, 3 years time, is that we have so many more straight stories or heterosexual stories in our midst. And that goes to straight people joining what we're doing and being a part of what we're doing, but also having like more conversations around bisexuality and people who are also attracted to women in our community while also being attracted to men. And it almost sounds like silly now to think of it like you're welcome here as long as you only talk about your struggles with homosexuality or things that are related to your attraction to men. Like you can't bring your stories that like, don't leave your blogs about being attracted to this woman, leave that at home. Like don't bring that to the blog, to the podcast. And so it's been really fun. And the hope for me personally is that this can be a community for men, regardless of whatever your sexuality is. We've always been across the board Kinsey scale type of community, definitely more toward one end of the spectrum than the other, certainly. And so I do think people experiencing homosexuality, either identifying as LGBTQ or SSA, like I think that will for a long time be a center hold of our community and of people and commonalities in our stories. But I just think it'd be such a cool thing and such a beautiful thing if we were able to attract men, the right men, not just any straight man or any bisexual man, but the right men to also complement our community and bring some balance to navigating sexuality, which is, there's enough complexity to go around. I'm convinced that it doesn't have to be reserved for anyone. So that's a little evolution of our tagline. We started out just navigating faith and homosexuality. That was our first tagline. And then our second tagline, we threw in some masculinity in there to navigate as well. And so now we're navigating faith, sexuality, and masculinity still together, always together. And I've told Ryan and Matt this, and some of the other guys know this too, but we're shooting for monthly episodes. We used to do these longer form podcasts every couple weeks. We tried to do 2 a month a few years ago. And so we're shooting for once a month for the rest of this year. And that's kind of the motto of my 2025 is like, how can we just lock into something for the rest of 2025 and just kind of see where that takes us going into a new year. So that's my hope, is to bring these episodes back one at a time, not going too far, not going too fast, but trying to get back into a rhythm again and really operating on faith, as of this recording. And I have no idea when this episode's coming out and what will have or not have happened in the meantime. But as of now, I am not technically hired by this nonprofit, this organization that I co-founded. Matt's actually the president. What's up? We have royalty in our midst, y'all.
Mr. President.
Or chair. Do you prefer president or chairman or chair? What's your go-to title right now?
President's very intimidating. Chair, Mr. Chair. I need the Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
And
I love that.
You were on the verge of being hired, by the way, any minute now.
Oh man, breaking news. Okay, cool. I love that. And I joke about it, but it's like, we're in the middle of, after launching our new websites and starting our new funding, we're trusting that the funds will be there to do what we need to do. And not only to hire myself, but also to hire Aaron to be the director of Your Other Sisters. So myself leading both Your Other Brothers and the greater organization of Your Other Family, and then Aaron leading Your Other Sisters, and trusting that the funds will be there, that we can get hired and continue to put out content and lead community offerings, and trusting that we'll get where we need to get. And so we've already been it's been a task, you guys, of transferring all these sparrows from Patreon to our new giving platform. And we're as of now, the Patreon page is still up. It might be down by the time this episode releases, but we're trying to shut down the Patreon page and switch people over to the new giving platform. And also beyond our own members giving, our goal is to get new funding. I think that was another big motivation for the nonprofit direction was if there's a way to partner with the greater church, straight people, for lack of a better term, but local churches and people in our lives, friends and family, moms and dads, married couples and other unmarried folks as well. I just feel like it would be so cool because by and large, we've been funded through the years on Patreon by about a 98 to 99% sexual minority group of people, mostly men, in our YOB community. And that's been beautiful and great. But we kind of reached, I think, our ceiling as far as how many people we can reach or how many people can support us, based on the last few years of the Patreon. So I'm excited by not just the financial, like there's the financial element of this, of needing to raise more money to do what we're trying to do between two organizations now within this nonprofit ministry, but the ability and the heart behind it to reach the greater church and to have the greater church also supporting what we're doing, I think is so cool and so inspiring to me. And we've already, as of now, gotten some great support from people who weren't supporting YOB on Patreon, and they're supporting Your Other Family now as our pending nonprofit. And that's really cool. That's really exciting. So I've put out a goal as I prayed about this, and this will be the last thing I say about our nonprofit. Over the last few years, we've had about 200 people supporting us on Patreon, slightly less, sometimes slightly more, but about 200 people supporting us on Patreon. And so I thought, how cool would it be if we could find that number, 200, also supporting our new nonprofit ministry outside of our community membership. And so that's my hope is that we can find 200 people within the YOB and YAS now communities, but then also 200 people outside of our communities who believe in what we're doing, the content we're creating, the culture we're creating, the community that we're creating, and the connections that we're building as we follow the Lord, the way that we feel convicted that He's led us to follow. So 200 plus 200 equals life. That's my equation right now. So we're trying to find 400 people out there to support what we're doing, to fund what we're doing for our first fiscal year. How exciting. So if you're out there, if you're listening, if you've been inspired, if you love our content, if you've been a part of our community or know somebody, maybe I know we have people who pass these podcasts along to their friends and loved ones, family members. We would love your support. All the links for giving are going to be in our description. And I encourage you guys to check out all the things that we have. So many new things if you haven't clicked around lately. And feel free to email me anytime, tom@yourotherbrothers.com. And I'd love to chat more about all of it. Matt and Ryan, thanks for joining me as we've segued. Ryan, you go back almost to the beginning. Matt, you've been around since the COVID years, since a little bit before COVID. So you've both been around for several years now to see all the, I was gonna say highs and lows. I mean, I guess lows too, but just different ebbs and flows. I guess that's a better way of putting it. Ebbs and flows.
Various rebrands and reorgs and restructurings. And it hasn't been that bad, but yeah, it's evolved a lot.
Yeah, it has. I'm glad you're all are still with me for the ride, as many of our fellow yobbers are. All right. I think those are plenty of announcements for now. There'll be more to come in the months ahead, but for now, you got to get to this episode. We're talking about women, and I thought we would talk about women because, Your Other Sisters is now a new community, and so we're going to talk about Your Other Sisters as well towards the end of this episode, and just kind of I thought this would be a fitting topic as we make the segue toward, on this podcast network, as announced on our last podcast update, having Your Other Brothers episodes, having Your Other Sisters episodes, and having Your Other Family episodes all in one place. We may separate them down the line, but for now, we're going to keep them all on one channel and really emphasize the family in our new title. So before we talk about women, you guys, this has been a much anticipated moment. We need to get to our sponsor for this episode.
Yes.
You guys want to know who shelled out the big bucks for this? Because we're talking about women, we are sponsored today by Man Ribs. Because as we all know, 6,000 some years ago, God plucked a rib out of a man, and the world was never the same. Never again. Amen, right?
Oh, good.
So good. Ribs. I was going to say just ribs, but no, it's Man Ribs. But also I loved the suggestion from our community where someone posted petition for this episode to be sponsored by Pop Divas. So Man Ribs or Pop Divas, it's some combination of those. Thank you.
Honestly, now I'm thinking of ribs like the dish, and I'm just thinking of barbecue sauce, and like that's. But maybe I shouldn't.
Probably not. Yeah.
And that makes you think of women, right?
Eventually, maybe.
One dot leads to the next. Yeah. So thank you, Man Ribs and or Pop Divas. We appreciate you making this episode possible. This was really fun to announce this on our Discord for our members, to say, hey, we're coming back and we're talking about women, and I want to hear your stories about women. And so the Yobbers came through. I was kind of worried that they wouldn't. Honestly, the first day or so, I was like, wow, nobody is commenting on this Discord channel with all of my questions. And then I gave a little nudge, and we got a flood of responses. So I'm gonna do my best to read as many of them as possible today. But then obviously I want to hear from you, Matt and Ryan, and I'll chip in as well. I thought it'd be fun because I've had my own journey and evolution with how I relate with women, going back to, whatever my earliest social memory is, 4 years old, 5 years old, something like that. All the way to today, 38 years old. So there's 30 some years of experience there of relating with women. And I just thought it'd be really fascinating, interesting to talk about that. How do we relate? How have we and how do we currently relate with the women in our lives, whether it's friends, whether it's sisters, whether it's moms, grandmas, or even like female teachers versus male teachers, maybe. I don't know. Like there's all kinds of interesting nuances to how we relate to women while also being attracted to men as people in this community on this show today. So that's kind of the context for this conversation as we birth this community of women who are also going to be alongside your other brothers, separate from, but also joined with. It's going to be an interesting new season of the show. Let's go to you guys before we go to the Yobbers. Like going to your elementary school years, let's say somewhere up until 4th or 5th grade, like how did you relate with women, or did you relate well with them, or did you not relate well with them? Like in general, and if there's any good stories, juicy stories that come to mind, of course, share them. But yeah, Matt, what about you? We'll go to your new to the YOBcast first, guest of honor. Why don't you tell us, how did you relate to the girlies when you were a young little non-mustached Matt?
Mm-hmm. The farthest back I can think as far as friendships at school and church, that young, like younger elementary, I think I had an equal amount of male and female friends. People were just people to me. But I do remember, though, early on the masculinity piece, on the weekends, I remember my brother staying home and watching sports with my dad, and my mom saying to me, I don't know why, but like, come with me, Matt, and let's go on this tour of homes. And it was, I don't even know why it was a thing, but you'd go around the city and these homes would be like new built homes, decorated. And I remember thinking, like, is it weird, like, that I want to go with my mom and my brother's with my dad? And I don't know. I didn't give it a lot of thought, but I was just a little bit insecure. Even at that early age, for wanting to spend that time with my mom. But looking back now, there were wonderful memories that we have together, so I'm grateful for it. But there was kind of maybe a more girly thing that I was into as a kid.
Yeah, I can relate with that on lots of levels. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm just now remembering, like, I would have totally been into the tour of homes as a child. I'm still into the tour of homes. I'd go on a tour of homes every year if I could.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, to answer your question, Tom, looking back in like childhood, I think I've typically always had a few female friends. The boys kind of fell into two categories for me, kind of the sporty or cool ones who were kind of intimidating to me, and then the sort of nerdy or smart ones who I felt like I fit in with. And I guess, come to think of it, the girls sort of fell into similar categories. And maybe I was intimidated by like the cool sporty girls too. So maybe my collection of friends was sort of more determined by those kind of social categories than like gender necessarily. But I do think that gender played a secondary role where I felt like I fit in with the boys more than with the girls on balance. And usually I had more like more male friends, even if they didn't do all the boyish sports and roughhousing kinds of things. And I have a younger sister, and I looking back, I'm not sure that I felt like we were friends at that age, but we did get to be friends eventually, like, good friends like you would want to have in a sibling. And so she's always been kind of a big part of my life too.
Nice. Yeah, when I was a kid, I definitely clicked more with my sister than my brother. My brother was crazy. Shout out to Andy if you're out there listening. He's a crazy little boy. So he was just a little much at times. My sister was only a year younger than me, and I like have all these fond memories. It's kind of emotional, honestly, of like holding her hand when we got onto the school bus, because we went to the private Christian school, but we used the public education buses to get there. And so we were sitting on this rowdy, I mean, it was insane, you guys, this rowdy school bus with all these public school children. And we were wearing our cute little Christian school uniforms. We had like the navy pants and the collared polo shirts. And I'm just holding my sister's hand, climbing onto the bus and sitting on a bus. And I remember one time we got separated like by several rows, and I was just like laser focused on her to make sure none of the boys were messing with her and doing something. So I guess felt very protective of her and very connected to her. And I love my brother too, I want to be clear. But me and my sister, we went to the same school, and a lot of times my brother went to a different school. And so it was just a lot of separation there. So growing up, I just felt more of a kinship with my sister by and large. And then it kind of transferred over to my classmates too. Like I do remember recess and soccer, like that's when I connected with the boys. Is like it was always relegated to like a sports arena, either during PE or during recess or after school soccer, and like that was when I connected with the boys. But otherwise, in between all that, especially on bus rides home, like I remember going up into maybe 4th, 5th, 6th grade, there was this girl on the bus, and we like always talked about the day, and we talked about the other boys in the class, and so there was always like a lot of connecting with the women, the girls, and it was just so much easier to talk to them versus do stuff with the boys. I think that's kind of how I've parsed it out in those younger years. I also did this father-son program, which I'm grateful for too. This father-son program at my church. And so that was an opportunity to do stuff too with the boys. But it was always like, yeah, we're running around in the church gymnasium and playing these crazy games. And it was never just like sitting still and being with anybody like that. I can't think of a time, honestly, like as a young little boy, of just connecting with the boys and not even realizing that's not something I really wanted at the time. I was just doing what the culture demanded, which is just run around and get all your energy out and play games and everything. So I didn't really have much awareness of the disconnect personally back then, but then certainly as puberty and adolescence came along, that became more, I became more cognizant of like, oh, I don't really fit where everyone else is right now. I wanted to read some Yobber comments, and as I'm reading these comments, if anything comes to mind, feel free to chime in. Either say, yep, that's me, or whoa, that is not me. And let me tell you why. Thank you, Yobbers, though, for your comments and feedback. I loved getting to hear all of it. Someone said this: I definitely had more friendships with boys when I was in elementary school. I just really liked being around them, and girls really weren't on my radar. A fact that I'm just now realizing as I'm thinking about this question. It's amazing how long it took me to realize I wasn't straight. So I love when my feedback can prompt awakenings in people of things that they haven't thought about lately or ever. Like, I love that. So that was really affirming to read. This person said, I had mostly close friendships with girls growing up. Part of this was due to moving around so much and having an easier time relating to girls. Common interests, less messy, and more fun to be around. Yeah, less messy. I think I'm somebody like when I colored or when I was at the crafts table, I was very neat. I was very particular. And some of these boys just let the glue fly. And that was not up to my standards.
It reminds me of I was taking notes maybe as a teenager and with multicolored pens. I had all this array of colors because I'm very organized and visual. And to me, it made sense, helped me study. And I remember a guy in my class walking by my desk and he said, "Hey, Matt, nice colors." And he just looked at me he was the point guard of the basketball team. Okay. And he's like, "Those are nice colors, Matt." And in that moment, I felt so much shame about how color-coded my notes were. Do you remember the days where you actually listened and wrote down notes from lectures?
Yeah, I loved
from lectures, colors. And I became aware, like little by little. And he was fine. He wasn't like, we were cool, but in that moment, he was just kind of putting me in my place. Like, hey, stop being gay.
Were they gel pens?
Yes, they were gel, Ryan. And the paper may have been black. You know what I'm talking about? Writing on that black notebook paper? Gosh, yeah. One of my top 5 gayest things I ever did in school. Yeah, black notebook paper.
Please tell me you still have those stored in a box somewhere.
I probably threw them
away
away shortly after the point guard of the basketball team called me out for them. Yeah. So the shame began.
Matt. I loved taking notes and having them orderly and different colors for different things. Yeah, that to me, different highlighters for different things. You're speaking my language.
Well, this is bringing me back to in elementary school. There was this camp in the woods by a lake that my sister and I would go to in the summers, called Lakeside Christian Camp in Massachusetts. And
what a great name!
It was just iconic summer camp, right? You stayed in cabins with other kids, and but I remember spending this is triggering memories of spending time in the crafts cabin making bracelets, versus a lot of I'm sure the gender balance in the crafts cabin was was very, very weighted toward women, but but then doing that instead of whatever the boys were doing, I don't even know.
Archery, I'm sure, but
archery, yeah.
Archery. God help me. I cannot stand archery. That was my least favorite camp task. I could not hold the thing and shoot it. It just, was not a thing. Similar to archery, this Yobber said, I was a ballet dancer from age 3 or 4 to age 14, Aww. Which is a predominantly female sport. I got used to being surrounded by girls all the time. Even at church, there were more girls than boys, and I emotionally connected better with them. I did not connect well with the boys at all. I was sensitive, shy, and not into traditionally boyish things. I was teased a few times by them at various church groups. I was no ballet dancer, but I definitely emotionally connected more with the girls and did my best to avoid the teasing. But yeah, I appreciated him sharing that. Someone else said this: when I moved, there were no other boys in my age range, a couple 2 years younger and older, but by then interests were diverging and I felt more at home with my younger sisters and their friends. We would stay at home and play Project Runway with leftover scraps and American Girl dolls, play dress up and Barbies and Polly Pockets. And my all-time favorite, we'd go rollerblading in the garage while listening to our Zoe Girl CDs and coming up with dance moves.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Here's the key to guaranteed getting your comment read on the air. List the detail. I need the details. Tell me don't just tell me you were rollerblading listening to music. Tell me you're listening to Zoe Girl. You guys remember Zoe Girl?
All the juicy details.
This particular Yobber may be too gay for the community. It takes it too far. But this is making me remember a story. I remember, I played soccer with my brother. I'm just trying to justify myself here. Played tennis with my brother. We rode bikes. We pushed each other down. We scraped our knees. Okay, we did the boy things. But I also loved performing with my cousins. And we would put on these shows and write scripts, dress up in costumes from my grandmother's basement closet. Okay. And I remember one time we were having a family gathering. My cousin and I were getting dressed, and my uncle came down to get my cousin to go home, and he saw me in full drag, some sort of dress of my grandmother's. And this is how impactful it was, because I still remember this. It just you just dug it up from a place I had buried it, Tom, with these comments. And he looked down at me and he said, "Does your dad know you're wearing that?"
Eek.
And then that moment, he might as well have just backhanded me, And to this day, I can see his face if I close my eyes. I'm like, little bitty prepubescent Matt, why would you feel the need to say that to me?
Mm.
If my uncle's out there listening, yes, he did. But
oh my gosh, that's so scary.
Yes, I'm going to have to work through that tonight all over again.
Now I'm remembering, this isn't as traumatic, but I am remembering that.
Let's unearth all the memories.
Yeah, we're unearthing the memories here. The neighborhood I grew up in for late elementary school and for the rest of my childhood, there weren't really boys my age. They were older and very much into football. But the girl next door was my age, and so she and my sister and I and the girl a couple doors down who was also my age, we would get together and choreograph dances to Spice Girls, mainly Spice Girls songs. And we decided to have a neighborhood show, neighborhood performance, and I was down, but then we were on the neighbor's back deck about to go on stage and do our Spice Girls dance, and I saw the neighbor dads and the brothers of the neighbors, all there in the audience and kind of looking at me a little. I mean, looking back, I feel like I'm probably projecting some judgment into it. No one said anything to me, but I had a moment of like, what have I done?
Did you go through with it? Did the performance?
I did. Yeah. I danced to Spice Up Your Life by the Spice Girls.
Dance your heart out. Whether it's Spice Girls or Zoe Girl. Yeah, we welcome the pop divas of our time. Someone else said girls were neat, but I didn't particularly hang out with them. I had a couple elementary school girl crushes. One was pretty persistent over a couple years because she did karate and liked math. But then my family learned that she read Harry Potter, and we got scandalized.
This is that's so juicy. I love
Isn't
it.
that tragic? All right. And then I love this last elementary share from one of my favorite yobbers. I have favorites, y'all. I do. One of my favorite yobbers. What I love about this yobber, I won't name him, but I don't think sometimes he says things and realizes how funny he is. He says things so straightforward and direct and blunt sometimes, and I just don't realize he has the perfect delivery. So I can like hear him saying this out loud and seeing it written on the text. You guys, I saw this comment in a coffee shop today and I was dying laughing. And it's so dark. It's so dark and like sinister, but I was dying laughing in this coffee shop reading today with all these people around me. I was just like, praise God, the YOBcast is back. Praise God. He said this, my first girlfriend was in 4th grade. I honestly don't remember how we officially became an item. It didn't last more than a couple of months because she turned out to be a murderer. She shot her mom and went to jail.
What? In 4th grade?
I don't know.
Oh.
That's all I have. That's all the story I have.
Yeah. And
I love how I just unmuted my mic to sit here speechless, like with my mouth hanging open.
It didn't last more than a couple of months because she turned out to be a murderer.
Yeah. Well, that'll end it, won't it? I guess
that's what stopped it. It wasn't the fact that he's not attracted to her. It's that she murdered.
Yeah. And now I'm gay. The one chance I had.
Sometimes God closes a door.
This laughter has been pent up. So that's a perfect segue to talk about, hey, did y'all date when you're growing up? Did you have attractions for women in your teenage years? He started dating in 4th grade. God bless him. But what about y'all? I need to mute myself and collect myself. But if someone has a juicy story to share, it's your floor. Go ahead, Matt.
Yes, I did. So I had a crush on a girl named Heather from church. And then I had a crush on a girl named Brandy from school. And then puberty kind of started settling in. And then I had a crush on a guy named Gabriel in my class. So don't know what happened there, but that was kind of the last. But I did have a girlfriend in 7th grade, and we were together I sent her a little note, like a George Strait, check yes or no kind of note. And she agreed. We never really talked at all in person, but she did say yes. And so that was real. And then a couple crushes in high school, and we don't have, and it would be years. It would be years of trying to pursue women before I finally gave up.
Oh, Heather, what a great Christian girl, young Christian woman name. I love that. What about you, Ryan? I forget. Didn't you date or try to date or something? I forget. Tell us your story.
I did. So, I mean, I think I was genuinely attracted to a few girls, but it never felt like it was, looking back, I think I never felt like it was strong enough to count. Like I was looking for to cross some sort of threshold into like, okay, this is real and I should do something about it. I did date one girl. If you're, I guess I shouldn't say her name, but if you're listening, apologies. But I think I eventually realized it was because she wanted to be dating me and I didn't really want to be dating her. And so I broke up with her after about 18 months. This was like ninth grade to 10th grade. And I remember on the phone call where I broke up with her, I read to her a chapter of Isaiah, maybe Isaiah 40, Isaiah 40, something about people being lifted up on wings like eagles, those who rest in the Lord or something like that. And I thought it might be comforting or something, but looking back, I realize not the best move. But I think so. So I did, in fact, invite a few girls to various dances and go with them to the dances, but I never really enjoyed it. So that's the story of my dating life with women.
The girl I took to the prom, we went mostly as friends, but she it's crazy. She moved off to California after high school, married a guy, and brought him back to North Carolina. And now he's one of my best friends.
Wow.
Oh, wild, huh? So it's funny to say to one of my straight best friends, you remember when I took your wife to the prom?
Mm-hmm. The girl I took to senior prom, we went to like an after party afterwards, and she went to a different high school than I did. And so she didn't really know anyone. But I had this is the kind of high schooler Ryan Berger was. For some reason, somehow I had the SAT the next morning, and so I had to leave the after party at a reasonable time to get to bed for the SAT.
Of course she did.
Well, she didn't want to leave, so I left her there. She's like, no. She said that's fine. My parents will pick me up or something. But I left her there, and later I found out that that she had made out with one of my he wasn't really a friend, but like a classmate. And I was like, honestly, fair. I kind of just like left her in the middle of the party with like a bunch of people she didn't know because I needed to take the SAT the next morning.
You should have read
Very studious.
You should have read Isaiah to her, apparently.
If only I had my Bible on me.
Read Isaiah to these poor girls. Oh my gosh. I like the strategy of becoming friends with the girl, and then when they get married, you become best friends with the husband. I like that. I like that strategy, Matt. Might try to employ that one day. I have never dated, so I stand out from you guys. I never tried to date, never took a girl to a dance, or we didn't have dances or proms at my Christian school. So I don't have that. I don't have that in my history anyway. But yeah, I mean, there were crushes, I would say, because like I felt like the cultural thing was I'm supposed to have a crush. So it's like, okay, who do I click well with? And I remember, do you guys remember passing notes? Well, Matt, you mentioned passing a note, like check yes or check no. I never had a check yes or check no note, but I remember constantly, like at least 3 or 4 different girls, probably more than that, honestly. The girls loved passing notes to me. I was just someone to pass notes with in class, and so I can think of several girls growing up, middle school, high school, and even going into not notes in college, but starting with those notes in middle school, high school. I can remember like starting with notes and kind of like this secrety, like the teacher didn't see a note. And so there's something exciting and thrilling about writing notes with these girls. And then like, as I got older, like I was just way more comfortable sitting at a lunch table with them. It used to be a cultural thing that you're supposed to sit with the boys. And then somewhere, I forget when, 11th grade, maybe 11th, certainly 12th grade. I was like, I'm just going to sit with the girls and I don't care because they're just easier to sit with and talk to. And the boys are crazy. So, or I was lumped into the nerds / like the outcast boys. And I was like, I'd rather just be with the girls and elevate my social status that way. So that was kind of my reaction to girls in high school, middle school, and then going into college. Like I would say I had 1 or 2 crushes, quote unquote, as well, but it always felt very forced. It was always like, this is what I'm supposed to experience and feel. And I definitely feel more of a strength of an emotional bond with the girls than the boys. But that's because up until that point, I just didn't have any boys that I was emotionally close with. I didn't know that I could be emotionally close with the boys. It was just always it just all felt very surfacey to me. I'm going to read some of our dating habits of our yobbers. So one of our yobbers said, relationships with girls during the teen and young adult years made me feel like I was winning at purity culture. I wanted to date girls, but it was more like, you love Jesus. I love Jesus. Let's see if we can hang out and love Jesus together. I love that. That's so cute. I didn't get any butterflies toward any gender, but I only wanted to date girls from a sense of emotional bond. I really wanted to have kids more than I wanted a wife at this point. And I can relate with that. And I feel like that's a sentiment a lot of guys in our community share. It's like, it would be cool to be a dad, maybe. Maybe that's more of a draw than having a wife also. Someone said this, there were quite a few instances where girls would confess their attraction to me, which was always awkward and never ended well. As even then, I knew I wasn't interested in dating, even though I just assumed I would marry a woman. Cultural norms are hard to ignore, after all. This led to a lot of anxiety around friendships, as I assumed I would develop feelings for my guy friends and my girlfriends would develop feelings for me. I see a lot of nodding heads. I'll just comment if I see Ryan and Matt nodding their heads as I read.
I have something to say about that, but more in the adult friendships context, so I'll hold off.
Oh, okay. Yeah, after this, we'll talk about kind of our present day being an adult in relationship with women. Someone said, I maintained good relationships with girls as a teenager, but was very closeted still, even to myself. And this meant confusion when girls did express interest in me, or other people teased me about girls when I truly just saw them platonically. He goes on to say, I did date 2 girls. One, we went back to being friends. The other cheated on me, which I found out from my sister and was confirmed after we broke up via an ultrasound picture on Facebook. And then he commented in italics, gay gasp. Gay gasp. Thank you, Ryan. Matt's just shaking his head in disbelief.
I'm still stuck on the ultrasound.
So pregnant.
I think it was the pregnancy. I think this person knew that that somebody else had gotten this person pregnant.
Wow.
You know? Yeah.
Praise.
Scandalous.
Gay gasp indeed. Mm-hmm. The Yobbers delivered on some nice juicy stories, which they gave me permission to recite on the air. So we're doing it. We're reciting them. As a teen, I still connected better emotionally with girls. I briefly had a crush on a girl from dance, but it was largely because I knew she liked me first. I decided not to date. I figured I wouldn't push it. If it happened, it happened. It never did. That's kind of how I thought too. If it happens, it happens. And then kind of never did.
That's how I feel about exercise.
Oh.
Just kidding. I work out a lot.
You do, Ryan. Ryan, you're very fit. As a teenager and young adult, almost all my close friends were female. I experienced some attraction to women during this period, but it was primarily emotional and romantic, not physical or sexual. I did not have any girlfriends after junior high school, except for one woman in my early 20s, whom I dated because it would make me look normal. I expected to get married because I constantly heard adults say, when you get married, and never if you get married. I'm so glad I don't hear that anymore. I don't know if you guys hear that anymore, but I'm so glad. I can't think of the last time I heard somebody say, when you get married, Tom. I haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah, no. Age 42, that's over.
Has the ship sailed?
I was wondering if I've aged out of it or if people have put 2 and 2 together.
So here's one that's interesting. They're never women I felt attracted to, only women or girls that I felt more at ease around and sometimes confided in. Bosom friends, if you will. They seem to understand better than my male peers. Fielding relationship questions, especially into high school and college, I often brushed it off with, I'm too selfish to consider being in a relationship. I used my stubbornness as a benchmark for incompatibility, and then also referenced my 5 siblings and their having never dated, and the poor models of relationships amongst our peers as proof enough that most people who pursue quote unquote young relationships have no idea what they're doing. Internally, I just never felt any desire to be in a relationship with a woman. I found friendships to be so fulfilling, and I couldn't imagine needing more than that. Also, I was probably semi-exhausted having shared a house with 7 other people and was more antsy for time to myself. Yeah, there's a couple of things that relate with me as I read that comment, which was feeling too selfish to be in a relationship. I've had to reckon with that or feel like, how true is that? Or if I were straight, would I feel the same way? And so processing my quote unquote selfishness, that's something that I've had to consider. And then also just like kind of relating a lot with what he said about friendship, like where I just feel like, man, it's kind of nice to have my own space, my own bed that I sleep in, and to have like my little culture and way of doing things at home, and then to have all these friends that I can fulfill needs with. So I relate with that. I know there are plenty of guys in our community that definitely desire the sexual, emotional, relational, one-on-one relationships. So I'm just relating my story with this one, but yeah, it's something that I saw a lot of it myself in. All right, well, why don't we move to the present day as we talk about our relationships with women now? And I'll jump in first for this one because I think I noticed the difference. I think honestly, when Erin came along, and this will sort of bridge the gap to your other sisters too, as we start to wind the conversation down, because that inevitably ties into my story as far as how I relate with women. Because prior to Erin coming along, I met Erin in 2022. I would say there's probably a couple of years there where I wasn't completely removed from women in my life, but there were strong relationships with women that I had developed in high school and definitely into college. It felt like for a few years there, I kind of took whatever's behind the back seat, like the trunk, like it took a large seat way back in the back of the vehicle that I was driving. That I was just not focused on my female friendships anymore. There was a few years there where Yob was really becoming a central focus of my life in those pre-pandemic and certainly into the early pandemic years, where I was constantly scheduling Zoom calls and making retreats happen and doing all these blogs and podcasts. And so I'm just constantly surrounded by our community members on a really, really consistent basis. I wasn't really well connected at my church at the time. And so I had reached a point for a few years where I was basically almost exclusively connecting with men and not at all to women. And then Erin comes along. And so I just feel like ever since connecting with her, it kind of revitalized this desire to stay connected with the women in my life, because I'm still friends with, at least one from high school, at least one from college, and then maybe one or two others here and there in between. But and especially today, just becoming way more active at my church and just having more interactions with women, most of them married. But it's really cool now that my story is so public that the husbands, I don't think, are thinking that I'm like flirting with their women that I connect really well with, who are married to them. It's just been really interesting to become friends with married women in my church, and then also single women from yesteryear, and still develop their connections. So it's been really interesting that Erin, so shout out to Erin, that I just feel like kind of awakened this desire in me to still be in connection and relationship with women, and not just all about these dramatic gay boys all the time, It's good to have some balance. It's good to have some balance in my life.
Yeah, I think there's so much that can be said, right? We could go so many different directions. Like, and it's so interesting to hear these Yobbers' input, because this gay man and straight female relationship is something that's very, very familiar, right? All around the world. There's some way that I was reading about it earlier today. There's some way where there's such an overlap of interest. A lot of times, compatibility is why there's a friendship there. And then also, I was reading a lot of gay men feel, and gay women, straight women feel at ease, like they can let down their walls of protection with one another. Girls don't feel like they don't feel like they have to impress. I think a lot of gay men in the gay community, gay men feel like they have to impress one another with their money, with their muscles. And the women just don't care. The women just love them for what they are. And then these women, they feel judged by other women, or they feel like they're not good enough for the straight men, the sexual attention, but there's just this ease that they can have with one another. So I think that's why you see so much Will and Grace kind of stuff, going on. I think Ryan and I were talking recently, and we didn't have, I don't want to speak for you, Ryan, but I didn't have as much experience in that. With that, and I want to know you guys' thoughts. I think it's because I had so much shame around my sexuality. I think that's primarily the reason. Almost all of my girlfriends now, at one time, fell in love with me when we were younger, because the same reason so many straight women fall in love with gay men, because we're just different. We have the strength but the emotional bandwidth, we're just, pretty much perfect, and so of course they fall in love with us. And little by little, though, I knew that these friends that had fallen in love with me, that I could never be for them what I loved them. And I didn't feel that I could be for them what I wanted them to have. right? So even though I cared for them, it never moved into a relationship for a lot of reasons, right? But that one. And a few years ago, I was able to each one of them say, hey, I know you may have already known this for a long time. I appreciate you giving me the space and the time to be ready to say this to you, but I am so gay and I love you. And I want you to know that if I were not so gay, that I would have loved you years ago and we would have been so perfect. And it was they knew it deep down, right? They knew it, right? But it was such a relief for them to hear me say that and to tell them how much I love them. And my relationship with them has deepened in a way after acknowledging my sexuality with them than it ever could before. And I think that has, as you were saying, Tom, it has opened up this new appreciation for female relationships at this season, like in middle age, than I ever could before. Acknowledging and integrating my sexuality into my identity, owning it, letting the shame slip away little by little, has allowed me to really appreciate these beautiful women that God has brought into my life. And we have a deeper relationship than we've ever had. So super grateful.
Yeah, I think there's a freedom that comes with not just like integrating your sexuality, but also even as non-straight men in this space, sometimes we feel like, oh, I have to keep that door to getting married eventually to a woman. I have to keep that door open because who am I to close that door if, I'm not God, right? But I think there is something about letting that, like, going ahead and closing that door that opens up these opportunities. Like it does, you're not asking yourself, oh, am I going to marry a woman one day? You're just able to sort of be more free in those relationships because of the decision that you've made.
Yeah. And I did want to give thanks to you guys for sharing that. I wanted to give a shout out to our married guys because we have a few in our community. And so I wanted to read some of their thoughts and perspectives on being married to a woman and how they relate with other women. I love this comment. Someone said, I once joked that there were only two women in the world, my wife and then all the others. But it's kind of true. While I'm not physically attracted to my wife, there are other ways I'm drawn to her. I feel more emotionally safe with her than any other woman, even though I generally feel emotionally more safe with women than with men. I'm drawn to her wisdom. And even though it confuses my cynical, melancholic self, I'm drawn to her joy and her hope. My wife is very easy to be with person, and I'm fairly convinced that she's about the only woman I could have married and stayed married to.
Oh,
I just thought that was such a beautiful, sweet comment. Someone else said, I'm only sexually and physically attracted to my wife. I have no desire for anything beyond friendship with other females. Now, most of our friends are married too. Since I'm in a heterosexual marriage, people assume I'm straight. So I try not to become too friendly with the wives because I don't want their husbands thinking I have any ulterior motives. While my actions may be intended to just make a new friend, others may think I'm flirting or trying to steal their girl.
Tom, I was at a cabin last week with old college friends I've known for over 20 years. And it's the last little group of friends because they live so far that I haven't shared with formally about my sexuality. And I haven't seen them in 4 years. One girl came out every day to our activities dressed so nice. She looked so beautiful. She's just aged so well, and I haven't seen her in years. And 2 different times I caught myself saying, you look so cute. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. That's 2025, Matt. And I've got to, hold on. She's not quite ready for that yet. But after I does that make sense? After I complimented what she was wearing 2 different days, I thought, I don't even need to come out to her now. Like I just did by complimenting, girl, it's so cute on you.
Girl. Yes, queen.
The city of Queens is doing this to me.
It's the city of Queens. That's right. And then I really love, last comment I'll read from the Yobbers, which I found was really sweet, from a single guy. He said, I found Yob during a particularly lonely period of my life where the military had just moved me to a new town where I literally knew nobody. I was plagued by the thoughts of, if I were just straight enough to marry a woman, then I wouldn't have to worry about moving somewhere alone again, coming home to an empty house, or having nobody to go on vacation with me. However, Yob showed me that marriage is not the only solution to loneliness. I'm not alone, and the single celibate life has tons of blessings through our freedom for community, brotherhood, and friendship. I no longer view women as primarily a potential solution for loneliness for their spouse, but now I can view them more holistically as fellow friends and unique image bearers of God. And this change in mindset has freed me to cultivate multiple new female friendships I may not have otherwise developed.
I love that. So well said.
I know. It made me smile so much. And as I ponder now, this new community that's been birthed, Your Other Sisters, we've gotten to meet lots of their community members at Revoice conferences and regional local meetups. And we've been doing these bi-monthly Zoom calls for over a year now. Every couple months, we'll get a bunch of brothers and a bunch of sisters on a Zoom call. And I always wonder, how is this going to go? And it's always gone fantastic. It's always gone so great. And I just think there's this synergy. There's this, it's hard for me to describe or even put a pin on, because not everybody at Revoice, or not everybody in the Side B world at large is necessarily drawn into what we're doing, but there's a specific kind of person, I guess, that is. And I don't know if it's the friendship piece. I don't know if it's the gender piece that we incorporate. I don't know if it's some or all of it, the story piece that we love telling stories, or we love doing retreats and hanging out together. Like, I don't know what it is exactly. Maybe it's some combination of all of those things, but it makes me excited, I think, for what's coming in this Your Other Sisters community. But I also recognize that there's a tension there of like changing what always has been and what is coming. And to be clear, Your Other Brothers is still going to be Your Other Brothers. We're still going to have male only podcasts and male only blogs and male only retreats and Zoom calls. Just like Your Other Sisters is going to have female only, all of those things as well. And also we're going to have some crossover and some co-ed spaces for both content and community. And so there's going to be a little bit of everything that I think some people will be up for, and maybe others will take a longer time, if at all, that they'll be up for. And so I asked the community, like, what is it about Your Other Sisters that you're excited about, or what were your feelings as we kind of put a pin on this conversation about women across our lives, women at large. And here are some of the honest responses, which I really appreciated. One Yobber said this: my initial thought of Yas wasn't very good. I thought about leaving Yob, but that's because I didn't know any of these women except for Aaron. But as the months went on, my mind shifted. It wasn't until our first Yob and Yas Zoom call that I found them easier to talk to. I've grown to like the idea of Your Other family. Someone else said, I was a little hesitant at first, as I was kind of like, is there really much interest in something like this from queer women? But I was quickly proven wrong. And I'm super excited that it's taking off. I adore my queer women friends, as they bring such an interesting perspective on Side B theology and other things, such as the influence of purity culture and their experiences as non-straight individuals. The body of Christ is better when we're together, and I think that making more of an effort to bring people of different backgrounds and experiences into the Side B community will only make it stronger. I do think there is also value in male-only and female-only spaces for discussion and connection, but I also think there needs to be combined spaces for everyone to learn and grow from each other, and again, open us up to different perspective. Someone else said, so excited for the girlies. Being a gender minority, there's a lot of ways I've learned that I feel more closely aligned to female spaces, broadly speaking. But also, I don't understand or experience everything that happens, and I love that there's more and more spaces for queer women to speak and share about their experiences with men, but also to support one another. Also, Erin is a dear friend, and in some ways, I wouldn't be where I am today without her friendship. So I'm not naming who that is, but I guess if Erin's listening, it's probably a short list of who that might be. Someone else said this: I was initially suspicious, but once I met a few of the women in person at Revoice, that fell away. And I'm grateful now for the chance to continue my own growth in appreciating this other gender that was also created within God's image. And perhaps it is especially safe to do so within a community of sexual minorities. You know, this theme comes up over and over again in the comments, and I've heard it through the years. It's like, you don't know what you don't know, right? So if you don't know who these women are, like where'd they come from? Why are they here? What do they want? Like, that can be scary, or that can be intimidating, or that can be like, are they going to like take away what Yob has been for all these years? And so I see the theme happening over and over again. It's like, oh, have a conversation, like meet some of these women, whether at a conference or at a coffee shop or at a local Yof hangout dinner, and And inevitably what happens, and I experienced it by going to Revoice this year, I got to meet a bunch of these women, and just had so many, like, I just was cracking up so many times. They're so funny. And then they're also so passionate. And so, like, from the ones that I'm starting to connect with, like, I can just tell they're good. They're really good storytellers. And I think they're going to have a lot of interesting things to say, both on the blog and podcast. And I just feel like I'm just really excited to see, like, who is their Ryan, or who is their Matt, or who is their, like, the things that we're bringing to our community, like, what are they bringing to their community? And the more I get to know them, the more I just delight in getting to know them. And so this is definitely a shout out to Erin, because she's done a great job of making these connections for over 2 years now, of all these emails and Zoom calls and Facebook groups and all these contacts that she's been building. She's done a really great job, and introducing them to our yobbers as well. It's been fun to see some walls come down and some more openness come in.
Yeah, I've had friends and family ask me if Yob has like a counterpart for women. And in the past, I've had to say no, which made me sad. So I'm excited that now I get to answer yes to that question. I think there's room in the world to extend the new umbrella of Yoff, your other family, and introduce Yas, your other sisters, under that umbrella, without making the umbrella of Yob any smaller. And I think if we can do that, it's a win-win, right? I think change worries a lot of people, myself included, often for no rational reason. But good leaders grow change out of a strong vision they cast, and they let people buy into it. So I think it's up to the Yob leadership to cast a compelling vision for why Yobbers should want the changes that are coming down the pike. So like, if I'm comfortable, remind me of something bigger than my comfort that I'm living for, and tell me how this change is going to be part of that mission. So that's kind of like what I see going on right now, right? So even though my first reaction to change is typically like some level of anxiety, I always want a spirit of openness and curiosity to overtake that anxiety. Is to ask those questions of like, what new good things could come of this change? What opportunities does this change carry with it? And so I would just encourage Yobbers listening to ask those questions of like, why maybe I actually want this to be true, and I think maybe that's speaking to the most skeptical of Yobbers out there, who I don't know that I've talked to anyone who's that skeptical, right? I think the response in the community from what you've read, Tom, seems to be very positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree, Ryan. Totally. Well said. And that, I think I sensed initially, it's been several years now, some trepidation, right? But gradually, it makes perfect sense. Some of the Yobbers comments that you read, that's what I've seen. That's what some of my friends have said. For me personally, some of our bros in Yob have led a Revoice chapter here in Charlotte for several years. They spearheaded, they planned, and more than half the group is female, and those ladies are just beautiful humans. And I think they have been the reason why I was like, yeah, definitely, yes. Yas.
Yas. And the joke is, for those that don't know, we said Yas Queen years ago, always spelling it Y-O-S, not Y-A-A-S. Is it 2 A's or 2 S's? It's not a gay snake. That's what somebody said once, right? It's not Yas, it's Yas. There's a slight difference there. But it started out as a joke, but then it like materialized. And there was always part of me that was like, honestly, that would be so cool if we just found the right woman to lead that community, or the right group of women, that it was such an organic fit. And so the fact that Erin, who was already friends with members of our community and lived in this great state of North Carolina, it was just super convenient to get to know her over a period of a year and then decide that, yeah, I think she's the right person to take this on. And she's already making amazing connections. And so exciting. I wanted to read this last comment before we go today. And someone said this in our community: I've been waiting, hoping for this to happen for a while. And it's because of all the interactions I've had with Side B women outside of this space and how I've learned so much from them. With Yob's big thing being a storytelling community, we'd be doing ourselves a disservice by leaving out the stories of women. As our community has grown, the diversity of the stories we shared has expanded, and it's important that we continue to do so. I also think that so many spaces are gender segregated in general society, but even more so in Christian circles, which impedes both men and women from forming relationships outside of the dating marriage sphere. I think growing into your other family is a bit of a statement that says spaces that reach across genders is important, and doing so doesn't have to erase the safe spaces each gender has. I recently came across an article on Medium. The name of the article is Gay Men, Heterosexual Women, and the Pain of Platonic Intimacy. And it landed with me on many levels, bringing to mind some of my own highly engaged, highly joyful relationships with women, and also the other side of the coin too. The things that are hard, the things that are lonely, the things that are devastating. I'll link this article in the show notes, but here are some excerpts from it. The author says, "Being a gay man has given me the opportunity to befriend countless amazing women, acting as their confidant, their protector, and so much more. It also serves as a painful reminder that moments of intimacy will more than likely make up most of my meaningful connections in this lifetime. What I assumed was one of the few benefits to being gay has revealed itself to be a double-edged sword. Gay men as a whole are oftentimes far too damaged, for reasons out of their control, to offer what women offer me. The safety I feel with women is unparalleled. I can express myself freely, whereas with gay men, everything becomes a performance, an Oscar-nominated performance. Talking to heterosexual women is like catching up with an old friend. Perhaps this is because with gay men and heterosexual women, there's no immediate intimidation, as neither of us is envisioning the other as a potential partner. We're blank slates, unconcerned with the arduous and often harmful desire to mold another person into the idea of them that we've conjured in our head. We are not conquests, we're simply friends. The connections I've formed with heterosexual women have been so intense at times that they have requested I be more than a friend. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would get to a point in my life where I would have turned down multiple people with whom I had real connections with due to my sexuality. When I think of these amazing women and the trajectory in which my life could have gone, I feel a mix of immeasurable sadness and unmendable pain. My female companions pour so much into me: joy, fear, worries, even pride, and I take all of it without hesitation. They've given more to me than any man ever has. Even so, I limit myself in the hopes that some man can replicate or even surpass the connections I made with women. Men who are as broken and damaged by this society as me. Men who live in the shadows because the pain of living in the light makes them physically sick. Men who have harbored so much self-hate that they've created a narrative in their head to convince themselves that they're less gay if they do X instead of Y. Men who have been inundated with fear to the point simply admitting they're gay would give way to a psychotic break. In many ways, I feel like a leech, siphoning the intimacy I receive from women as a substitute for the complete lack of intimacy I'm receiving from men. My friendships with women are genuine, sacrosanct even, yet I continue to try my hand at fitting a circle into a square. I surround myself with heterosexual women fully aware it's a desperate attempt to overdose on the love they have for me. The consequence for this choice has been a loneliness that wounds me more than a real double-edged sword ever could. Most of the women I've had these connections with have moved on, finding love and happiness partner after partner, year after year. While we remain cordial, I remain stagnant, attracting just enough heterosexual women to keep myself from going clinically insane due to a lack of human interaction. And the author goes on to conclude, "These women double as my saving grace and the bane of my existence. My purpose in life effectively reduced to a gay best friend, whose efficacy begins and ends with being a personal confession booth." There's something about this author's expression of women as both his saving grace and the bane of his existence that convictingly, soberingly lands with me. I think back to my own life in high school and college especially, where women were all I had. I didn't have any male friends. At least in high school, even though I wasn't really friends with any men, I at least had the forced interaction with them in various environments like PE classes or cross-country practices. Moving into college, though, I was on an island. The only people I could really talk to were women. I look back on those several years of my life in my early 20s and shudder to think who I would have become without those precious women saving me from insanity, this lack of human interaction. When I discovered this Xanga community, the group of men who predated your other brothers, it was like a light switch went on. Suddenly I could connect with men. All of these amazing, intricate, deep wells of men scattered around the country, even around the world. I had access to men like I had never had before in 20 plus years. In those first few years of Xanga, and especially your other brothers, I feel like my female friends didn't just take a back seat. They weren't even on the same highway. Weeks, even months would go by between text messages and reaching out in any meaningful way. I never felt bad about it either. I can specifically remember one dear female friend, upon making some new friends, male connections in this world, just completely blowing her off. After all she'd done for me, all the conversations she'd initiated, everything she'd done to keep me afloat, and not just keep me afloat, but meaningfully connect with me. And I didn't even think about reaching out to her. Didn't even think about connecting and staying connected, building upon our connection. It's almost like if I stayed in connection with women, I would be losing something in my connection with men. It's like being in relationship with women reminded me of my distance from men. As if I had to choose one or the other. I couldn't do both anymore. It was either continue to befriend only women or pursue men. And the sad irony of it all, with a tinge of sweetness too, is that so many of those male friends that I was so obsessed about a decade ago, they're nowhere near my life anymore. And yet some of those women, those same exact women, are. And I find myself really grateful that they never gave up on me, even though many times I gave up on them. My relationship with women has been complicated, just like I suppose my relationship with men has been complicated. My relationship with humanity is complex. Relationships are difficult. Now, many years removed from the founding of your other brothers, I'm starting to realize more clearly what my relationship with women was and what it still can be. When I get close to women, it feels like I'm looking at myself in a mirror sometimes. A mirror into my darkness, my isolation. A mirror that reminds me I'm more like them than I am with other men. My emotions and wavelengths far more womanly than manly. And this has frustrated me on one side of the spectrum. It's infuriated me on the other. Why am I so similar? Why am I so different to men? Why does it feel like I can stand side by side with a woman, but men are on the other side of the chasm? Looking back now with the gift of time, I realize, though, it's not any one woman's fault for stirring up these things in me, these complications, these complexities, these frustrations and infuriations. Like any of us, we have our side of the fence to reckon with. And my task now, and the task for the rest of my life, is not to push women away, but to remain in relationship with women, to pursue women, just as I pursue men, without despising them or without despising myself for whatever femininity I see in them, in me. I can be in relationship with both. I can have healthy, strong relationships with both. And like any gym workout, any workout of the mind, I think this workout of the heart will take some time, will take some discomfort. In the end, I believe the end result will be so worth it. And so, my brothers, let us love this day each of the fellow image bearers in our midst, men who beautifully reflect the face of God, and women who reflect his same wonderful face. Those who are gay or otherwise attracted to the same sex, and those who are straight and everywhere in between. Let us love well those who are older than us, those much older than us, and those who are younger, far younger, those who are married and unmarried alike, those of us of varying political leanings or theologies or lack thereof. Let us not discriminate who we love or befriend in this life, or who we may learn from, or let learn from us, love us, never depriving ourselves and others of the stories being written and told and shared, particularly within this singular church, God's bride. We are His men and women, all of us together. God, give us the grace to work through our woundings with others, with men, with women, with all people. Help us love one another well, just as you have loved us, one day at a time, one relationship at a time, with gratitude for every person you cross our paths with. Let us make the most of every moment and every interaction and every story.
And each of you said it, and I haven't said it yet, but Erin is great. So I just want to.
She is.
I love Erin. She's great. So glad to have her on board on this mission.
Absolutely. And Ryan and Matt, you're part of the mission too. I appreciate y'all's leadership through the years and just helping me steer this ship through some interesting waters over the years. And now, as your other family, your other brothers in your other family, I appreciate your continuing presence with me. It means a lot. I'm excited to talk to Erin. We'll, stay tuned. We're still working on timelines and schedules, and hopefully we'll start locking into some regularity soon, y'all. But hopefully you'll be hearing Erin's voice on these airwaves here within somewhere between a week and like 6 months. I don't know. I have no idea when this comes out and what the timeline is. My perspective of time is very loopy at the moment, but I'm excited to hear what our other sisters have to say. I don't know if y'all have thought about this. Like, I'm kind of just like, part of me is like, am I allowed to listen to their podcast? And like, what are they going to talk about? And like, yeah, they've been listening to ours for all these years. So I'm excited to listen to your other sisters' podcast and see what in the world they're going to talk about. I know Erin's got notebooks. She's got notebooks, y'all, of things. So I'm excited to see from the content side and then continuing to build relationships on the community side. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing. Y'all, we ran out of time. We didn't really get to talk about our mothers today. I hope that's not a disappointment to either of you.
Plenty of time for that.
If you wanted to talk about your mom, if you have any mommy issues out there, anyone?
And that could be, that's a whole episode.
Right? It really kind of is.
File it away.
As I was thinking, I was planning this episode, it's like, okay, women, who are the women in our lives? Our friends, our girlfriends, or people we're supposed to be girlfriends with. And then Yas coming along. And then I was like, well, we'll throw moms in there too. And I realized now looking back, I was like, that's just too much, too many women. We need like a Mother's Day episode or something where we talk about our moms. I think that would probably be a better setting. Mother's Day 2026. You guys want to talk about our mommy issues? Okay. Matt is game. Matt, you were really excited for that.
I do love my mother. We're not. Yeah.
I love my mom too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
lots of good things to say.
I also have issues, Mom. I'm just going to say that. So we're going to talk about that next year. Not right now, though. I'd love to hear from the Yobbers and any Yossers out there too, for that matter. If there's anything that was interesting in this episode that you care to comment on, head over to our brand new, shiny, sparkly website, yourotherbrothers.org. Go to yourotherbrothers.org/YOBcast. Man, feels good to say that. And drop us a comment on our episode 108 post about women and answer any of the questions that were brought up, or tell us a story. You guys know how it works. Tell us a story. We love stories. And we would love to hear what you thought about this episode and just all the new things that are going on. It would delight my soul to go back into the comments again and see comments from people. So I hope you guys do that. All right, Matt. Was this good? Do you think you'll come back? You think you'll do this again?
My heart grew 3 sizes with you guys tonight.
Oh, lovely. That's awesome. We loved having you.
It was great.
And shout out to Man Ribs and Pop Divas for fueling this show.
Ribs.
slathering barbecue sauce all over this episode.
I'll live with those man ribs.
Exactly. It was good to be back with y'all. Everyone out there, thanks for your patience. Thanks for your loyalty. Thanks for your generosity, for keeping this thing going, despite a dip in content, both on the blog and podcast, honestly, for the last couple of years. Would appreciate your support. Check out our give link in the notes. If you haven't started giving yet, we would love your support. Otherwise, shoot me an email and let's chat. We'd love to chat more about all the new and exciting things that are happening in your other family. So much fun. All right, that's going to do it for tonight. We'll be back hopefully around a month from now, whenever you're listening to this. So put me to it. I want to try to stay consistent with this effort again. And appreciate all the love. For all your other brothers out there, this is Tom.
And this is Ryan.
And Matt.
Reminding you that you are not alone. Even the sparrow finds a home. See you next time, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Your Other Brothers podcast, a production of Your Other Family. We'd love your feedback. Comment on this or any of our podcast episodes at yourotherbrothers.org. You can also call us to ask a question or share a brief story at 1-706-389-8009. If you enjoy this or any of the shows on Your Other Family Podcast Network, consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also follow our family of socials on Facebook and Instagram at Your Other Fam, Your Other Bros, and Your Other Sisters, and on YouTube at Your Other Fam. Finally, if you enjoy our content, consider giving to support our nonprofit ministry. Check out our YOF giving link in the episode description. For membership in our YOB and YOS communities, submit an inquiry at yourotherbrothers.org/membership or yourothersisters.org/membership. There's always room for one more sparrow in our nest. Until we journey next time, we're glad you're with us.
Your Other Family.